trying to push away from the life that I have? Or am I building, trying to pull myself towards a life that will eventually satisfy me, that will eventually be enough, that will eventually let me go to bed with a smile on my face, saying thank you to the world? Welcome to the Grateful Podcast with Jack Wagoner, where each and every week we explore what it takes to live a life full of purpose and gratitude. I'm your host, Jack Wagoner, and I am a deep believer in what I call the duality of gratitude and relentless action toward your goals. That's where we can feel grateful for what we have in this moment right now while pursuing something bigger and better in the future. And that's the way I like to live, and that is what we talk about here on the Grateful Podcast. The Grateful Podcast with Jack Wagoner presents. Subscribe. If you're enjoying this episode of the Grateful Podcast, I would very much appreciate it if you could either share this podcast episode with friends and family, or kindly leave a review down below on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It would help me be able to make this podcast better for you and better for all my other listeners. Thank you. Enjoy the show. Learn from the mistakes of other people. That's why reading is so important. That's why consuming is important. Consuming media, consuming stories from other people in the past that have gone through the things you're going through, have faced the trials and the tribulations that you will face, because they have experienced the highs and the lows that you're going to experience. So yes, maybe there's some lessons that you can't learn through reading or listening or having a conversation about it. Some lessons that no matter how much you're warned, you will go through them and you will experience the lowest of the low as a result of it. But by reading stories from people who have gone through that, you'll at least be able to have some support. You'll at least be able to know that other people have gone through this and you'll be okay. That you're not special. And that there's ways out. Man, there's some things in life that you do just need to experience. I'm interested to see how this podcast episode does. I've not done one like this, or just sit down, no script. I had a script planned. There's me closing my computer. I don't need it. Just speaking from the heart today. It's more motivational than usual, I guess. It's kind of weird just sitting in a room talking to cameras, but I'm getting more used to it. I definitely enjoy my conversations more than I enjoy just talking to a camera. But these are like diary time for me. It's like my diary. Talk about what's going on in my head. If you want to hear more about what I was talking about at the beginning, and if you were lost with the whole Isaac Newton thing, you can check out my newsletter. I'll link it in the description below here. I send it out every Monday. It goes out at 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. every Monday. Really good. I really enjoy them. But anyway, back to the podcast. It's important to pursue these things that we're talking about and go for your goals and learn these lessons through a lens of gratitude. And that's what I've started this podcast about. I see so many people going after things as a way of getting away from their life right now. They're so deep in hatred toward their current circumstances that they feel they need to push away and they need to get more to fulfill them and to bring them happiness and to make them succeed in life. And this is a mistake that has been going on and been being made by so many people for such a long time. I struggle with all the things I see on social media and in the news where people say, especially today in this age, yes, things might be bad, but things have been bad before. Nothing about our time, our generation, is inherently special. History is a long, long time. Human history is massive. And just about any lesson has already been learned, been written down for other people to learn before they go through it. But like we were talking about with the unteachable lessons, it's not enough. People need to go through the same thing again. That's why there's a cycle. But for so long, people have thought that they could just push away the hatred in their life. If I succeed enough, this hatred will go away. If I just do anything to get out of this right now and I push away, my life will be better. The thing is, it follows you. So instead of pushing away hatred, let love and gratitude pull you towards success. And so I like to think of this as the difference between push and pull success. Pulling is when you love something, you have a passion for it, and you build upon it. That love, that joy that you get through the process of it is going to pull you towards success rather than pure anger and motivation and hatred for your current circumstances pushing you away from it. One might have a faster acceleration, but one is ultimately going to get you further, and you're going to feel better doing it. Man, when I learned that. And I wish everyone could hear that. I wish that message could go to every member of my generation, especially every person in the world, but especially my generation, and especially young men, because the media that young men are being fed these days is all about money and success. And there I go. I said these days. It's always been that way. But social media really amplifies that. So building upon gratitude is what this podcast is about, and it's what I want you to think about when you're going after your goals. The people that build something on gratitude end up going through each and every day loving what they're doing. They can get absolutely nothing in return. They can spend money and they can lose money. They can work 12-hour days, 15-hour days, and see nothing in return. They can be alone. They can be cold in their attic, on their computer, grinding, editing videos, doing whatever it takes to succeed, and they'll love it because they're doing something they love. They know that what they're doing is bringing them joy and bringing them fulfillment. The people that are pushing away, that hate their current circumstances, that want nothing more than to get away from the life that they're living right now, will always have a nagging feeling inside of them that they're not enough. They'll always have a nagging feeling inside them that they need to do more to make up for the life that they hate, that they need to build more, they need to earn more, they need to work more. And while the people that build upon gratitude get what they want, love what they do, and might work the same amount, and might be seen as a workaholic all the same, people that build upon gratitude are loving it. Loving maybe not every moment of it. There's always going to be hard parts. But at the end of the day, they feel fulfilled, they feel accomplished, they feel satisfied. They can smile. They can say thank you to the world for letting them do what they do. But the people that are running away from reality that they hate are going to go to bed feeling like they're still being chased, like there's a monster behind them coming to get them. They're not running fast enough. And I know people like that. And the people like that I know, they say it's never enough. They don't enjoy what they do. They only enjoy the distance that it creates between them and the life that they dislike. But that distance never seems to be large enough. So the question you have to ask yourself is, am I building? As humans, our realities are relatively open to individual interpretation. But throughout this individuality, there are a few rules, a few boundaries that bind our realities to intersect so that we live interconnected lives. These boundaries are interesting. They're ones that we don't think about very often, but they're ones that exist. They're the things, the glue that hold our lives together, our society together. And if one person loses one of these boundaries, they're outcasted, they're exiled, they're no longer one of us. Oftentimes, they're portrayed as crazy, insane, psychotic. That's what we label the people that lose the glue that holds our realities together. What's interesting, what I've been thinking about a lot the past few weeks, is that a lot of these boundaries are things we think we understand, and we might not. Example, the laws of physics. All humans must abide by the laws of physics. If not, well, there is no if not. You can't break them. Or at least you can't break the real ones. But when Isaac Newton, only 200 some years ago, intellectualized and theorized what were the laws of physics, what are the odds that he got everything right? And I'm not here to question one of the greatest minds to ever think. What I'm doing is I'm questioning what we as humans collectively believe. Isaac Newton might have gotten a detail of a detail wrong in what he described as the laws of physics. And if he did, even one small detail wrong, society believes that its laws are something different from what they actually are. Society would believe that you're crazy if you're not following these laws that you're actually following. Are you following? This is confusing, I know. But it's all to point out the extreme power that the curious minds have over society. Isaac Newton saw an apple fall next to him and thought, why does that happen? His answer ended up being the foundation upon all of human society. And there's going to be arguments, it's not just human society, it's the world, it's the way the universe works, and yes. But I'm one to believe that the magnitude of the forces in the universe are much greater than things even our greatest theories can describe as of right now. But it has provided the glue for society. There are many other things like this. I mean, my mind's thinking very scientifically, but I mean, you could go to I'm not a big believer in God, so you could go to the authors of the Bible. They've constructed these things that that many people hold as ultimate truths, but they're just the ones that constructed it, and they might not be entirely right. So the construction of these principles upon which our society is based if it was flawed, then everything else we do is flawed, even though we're living by a different one. That means we're living in an alternate reality because we believe what we believe. And when we believe something, we act in accordance with that. This is a lot of chitter chatter. But it's to say that you do you. We have these realities. Each individual lives a different life than anyone else could imagine. Your life is different than anyone else. You know you differently than anyone else knows you. Your father knows you differently than anyone else knows you. Your mother knows you differently than anyone else knows you. Your best friend knows you differently than anyone else knows you because of the experiences they've had. Everyone has a different reality. Everyone looks different in each individual's reality. You, if I were to meet you, would look different to me than you do to yourself because we're our own center of our universe. And whether we're wrong or right doesn't matter. It's how we experience life. So as I said with Isaac Newton, whether he was right or wrong, we still experience life in the same way. Whether the laws he said were completely 100% truthful or not, we accept them as ultimate truth and we live them. So you should believe that you are who you want to be. I've had this thing with myself for a long time. It's been 3 years. I write down the ideal Jack. My dream self, I like to call him. I write down everything. How's he act? How's he think? What's he say? What's his day look like? What's his routine? And then I do it. I make a clear, conscious choice every day to act like that dream Jack, like my dream self. I wake up, and if I don't want to go for a run, I think to myself, what would my dream self do? What would the person I'm striving to look like do? The answer is usually go for the run. So I do it. I run. And if you act just as your dream self would act, you are your dream self. The only thing standing in between you and your goals is doing. The only thing standing between you and your goals is doing what needs to be done. And yes, there's so many more complications to that are probably going through your head right now, but that is your mind coming up with excuses for why you shouldn't do it. Yeah, maybe doing it's hard. What isn't hard that's worth doing? As I've continued to make my podcast and go through things, I see myself constantly trying to differentiate myself from other people. And the only way you can truly differentiate yourself is by doing things that are more difficult than other people are willing to do. Alex Hormozy once said, shift from, oh, poor me, I have to do this, to, oh, poor everyone else who's going to have to fucking try. I live by that. When you start out, you don't have a lot. I don't have a lot. I'm an 18-year-old kid. I don't have a lot of money to my name, but I have time. I have energy. What can I give that nobody else can, or nobody else is willing to do? I can give my time and my energy. Those are the resources I have the most of right now. And the real there are a lot of different ways you can succeed, quote unquote. But the sure way, and the way that many people aren't willing to do, is just by working harder than everyone else. I mean, everyone says that, right? You got to work harder than everyone else, but it's true. No one's like, it sounds bad, but you have to get to a point where you think that nobody's working harder than you. How can you be sure that nobody on the planet is putting in more effort than you are right now? Become obsessed. But make sure it's something you love to do. All too much in my life, in this pursuit of success and greatness, I've become absorbed in the work itself and become detached from what my mind really wants. In having these conversations on my podcast, I've been able to really pick some great minds. And one person said, if you love it at the start, you'll love it at the end. This was Nick Pollard. But if you don't, you won't like it at the end. So what that means is, if you start something, you better love it right now. When you're reaping no reward, when you're reaping none of the benefit, you have to love the thing. Because when you start reaping the benefit, you better love the thing that can keep going. That's huge for me. Don't start something for money. A lot of people, like in the Matrix, Morpheus gives Neo the red pill or the blue pill dilemma. Most famous dilemma. And he says, Neo, you're going to have to see for yourself. So many people have already seen for themselves what going after purely financial success does to you. So many people have already said, money is not enough. Money doesn't bring happiness. And yet, so many people continue to go after it. I'm fascinated by these things in life that seem like the unteachable lessons. The lessons that no matter how many people tell you and try to teach you, the only way you can really learn them is through experiencing them and failing. Trying to push away from the life that I have, or I'm building, trying to pull myself towards a life that will eventually satisfy me, that will eventually be enough, that will eventually let me go to bed with a smile on my face, saying thank you to the world. That's the question I leave with you today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Grateful Podcast. I have an episode coming out on Wednesday with someone named Deb. She's a nurse, a specialist nurse for kids aged 0 to 6. She lives in England, and she talked a lot about how your first 6 years of your life impact who you become as an adult. I thought it was fantastic. I learned so many new things. And then Saturday, I have an episode coming out, none other than David from Today I'm Grateful on Instagram. Also fantastic. Go check those out. Love you all. Build on what you're grateful for. You won't regret it.